Hi, I'm Christy Conway with Charleston Home and Design Magazine, and I'm here in this amazing James Island home with Tommy Priester of Priester's Custom Contracting, and I'm also with Tara Beldner, and she's the homeowner. So tell me, guys, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
Great. Thank you. And those are her wonderful children. What's his name?
This is Harrison.
Okay.
And Dawson running around in the background.
Okay. So what kind of project was this? How did Tara approach you about doing this remodel?
Well, Tara, they contacted me, I think, over the phone. Actually, I think she sent me some emails, and then we talked over the phone, and we came out and we discussed it. They were wanting to do an addition to the house. They had a huge screen porch area that they wanted to convert into living space so that they could capture the view of the river that they have here and the marsh and all, and the view out the back is amazing here, and they wanted to capture that, being that the kitchen is one of the areas in the house that you spend so much time. And they have the little ones, and they like to entertain, and they wanted to capture the view that they have there, and they had contacted, I think, several other people that hadn't followed through, and they were unable to get some drawings together that they needed to get done to do the conceptual part of the remodel. And so when we came in, we hooked them up with a designer that designed the space, and that process went very rapidly, and then they decided that they wanted to indeed move forward, and we came in, and I think the only apprehension that there was, which she had a deadline, she wanted to be in before Christmas.
Okay.
And I know that was a stipulation, and she said, Tommy, we have to be in the house before Christmas. And she says, if you can't promise that, we can't do the project. And she'll tell you that I said, well, maybe we should wait till January.
Yes. That's one thing I loved about Tommy, is that he always overestimated, always gave the worst case scenario with every little aspect of the project, and which led us always to be pleasantly surprised, because he always came in ahead of his initial deadline, and it wasn't as complicated as he thought it was going to be. So as you know, as homeowners and first-time project people, we've never done anything like this before. That was very nice and a great comfort.
What's the saying? Prepare for the worst,
Exactly.
or something like that? Okay. So is that generally how you approach a project? You kind of foresee any potential problems and then go from there?
Yeah, and I explained that to her too. I told her that when she hired us, that we would always tell her worst case scenario, her and Matthew, which is her husband, and that I think that when you're open about a project and go in making sure that people know that all the pitfalls and things that can occur, and they're aware of that going into it, then you end up on a whole different playing field, meaning that she was prepared, they were prepared for the worst case scenario, and again, like I told you, she wanted, her initial thing was she wanted to be in before Christmas, and I told her I didn't think that was going to happen. And then as things started moving along and they started seeing things move along, her and her husband both said, I think that we're going to make it. And I said, well, we'll let you know about 2 weeks prior. And I think that we waited to the last minute before I told her, you know what, I think we're going to be completely done. But that's because there's so many things that occur during a process that when you come into a project and you haven't opened the walls up and you don't know what has to be moved and what has to be altered and what kind of structural issues you're going to run into until you have it down to the shell level, and then how they made the decisions on the windows and the colors and the trim and the cabinets and the countertops and the tile. All of that makes a huge deal in the process of how things flow, and they did an awesome job on making those selections. I think it again has a lot to do with the team that you have put together, so that they were able to help them make those decisions in a timely manner, and then she was able to flow right through that process.
Well, obviously you have a large family, and I'd imagine that had a lot to do with why you wanted to expand the home. You've got, what, 3 growing boys, right? Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the process? He mentioned, he touched on it a little bit, how you called a few people and nobody would get back to you. And I find, I mean, that's a huge deal in this industry, is just call people back, you know? You'll probably get a lot more business that way. Can you talk a little bit about that process that you had?
Yes, right. Well, when we decided we were going to move forward with the project, I just basically opened the Charleston Home and Design magazine and went through and looked through the pages and the different contractors that were advertised. Did some research on their reviews online and that kind of thing, and then just started making some phone calls. And I think I called a total of 5 contractors, and Tommy was the only one that answered his phone immediately and always called me back. I didn't have to go through a middle person, a secretary in an office, and and then they call me back 3 days later. So I knew this was going to be a very big project for us. We wanted it to be done well, and we wanted to have direct contact with the contractor as much as possible, because I'd heard these horror stories about the contractor was never there. And one thing we loved about Tommy is that he was here every single day on the project, first thing in the morning, here, and that was fantastic for us, because we knew that even if he would call Matthew, even if Matthew wasn't here first thing in the morning, he would call him during the day and touch base with him as well. So those are just little things that make a huge difference when you're making such a big project. So
You don't want to have to be worried about your project when you're trying to raise a family and juggle all these things. So yeah. Now you're actually a family man yourself, so you're probably used to working around the needs of a growing family, I'd imagine.
Yes, we've got 3 children. Ours are a little more spaced out in age, but we do have 3 children, and I think it boils down to just what Tara said, is communication. The homeowner wants to know, regardless of what issues are, whether it's something that didn't go the way you planned it to go, or whether there needs to be alterations to the plan. They want to know that up front, and as long as you're open and honest throughout the process, I feel like that they flow so much smoother, because everybody's able to accept things that are different than what was originally planned, as long as they can understand why these changes were made.
So tell me about the process. Did you find any challenges when you opened up the walls? You said there was potential for that. And this is an older home, right?
Yes, it was built in 91.
Okay.
So
Not too old then.
yeah.
Okay.
We did. We had some plumbing issues. We had plumbing that was in the way that we didn't think was going to be in the way, and we had some electrical, I think, that was in the way, and some security. A ton more security, I think, than what we thought we had here was in the way and had to all be rerouted. But we worked through all of that once we got it all exposed.
And were you the only one who was kind of envisioning the design, or did you have kind of an assistant in that department?
Matthew and I, my husband, we knew exactly what we wanted to happen. We didn't know if what we wanted to happen could happen. And once I called Tommy, and he put me in touch with the designer for us to call and actually get a plan on paper about how it could happen, and what type of windows and we needed. We felt, of course, much better about it. It's very overwhelming when you walk into something like this and not knowing who to go to. And he always had the person to call, and they always had the answers, and it really helped us make our decisions a lot easier, especially when we got to picking out the different, the granite and the different aspects of it, it can be overwhelming. So he never made it overwhelming when it came to that point. So that was nice.
So you have, Priesters Custom Contracting has a bunch of connections in the area, I'd imagine. You've been in business for a while, so if anyone has a question or needs a resource, I assume you have that available.
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
How long have you been in the Low Country?
I've been in the Low Country my whole life. We've been in the building industry since '88, and we've been doing custom remodeling and custom home building for the last 10 years.
Do you specialize in one versus the other, remodeling or new construction?
No, it's probably about 50-50, and the economy kind of dictates that as well. We've seen a die-off in new construction, and then we see that coming back, and it's always been kind of a 50-50 deal.
Well, do you have anything else to say about the project that you felt is important to share with viewers?
I think that if I had anything to tell the viewers, it would just be basically to do your research. Charleston is a small, tight-knit community, and when picking somebody to do a remodel, I would say that call their references, call their vendors, because the vendors and the references, they'll tell you volumes of what you want to know, probably more than what you want to know about a particular builder. And I think that if they're not willing to open that door up, then there's usually a reason for it. So we have an open door policy, and I think that's the best way to operate.
And do you have any tips for homeowners who are wanting to do a small, medium remodel like yourself?
Just do research, get as much information as you can. I think, the more information you have up front, the more better decisions you can make, and follow your gut. And we knew when we met Tommy, we knew that he was going to be the right guy for the job. So,
Well, can you ask your kids if they like the new remodel?
hey guys, did you like the new house?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you have to say, Dawson?
Now you're quiet.
That's usually how it works.
Tell them about the cabinets.
You like the cabinets? Okay, well, for people who want a remodel like this or even new construction, what's your website address and phone number?
My website address is Priester Custom Contracting, and my phone number is 200-8495.
Okay, great. And when you call that number, will you get your wife, Shelley, I'd imagine?
No, when you call that number, it'll be directly linked to me. Shelley's number is 200-8496, if you want to go to the brains of the outfit.
Yes, she definitely is. All right, well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Your home is lovely.